Game day.
Welcome in everybody to another episode of Chiefs Focus Live. You're here with JP Quentin. We got Thiz running the show. It's kind of a somber situation. Don't know. We didn't really know what to say about this whole situation at the parade. Just kind of taking it all in, and it's been disheartening to say the least. You're kind of at a loss for words when it comes to something like this, and it's just hard to fathom that this could happen, regardless of what the reason is. And I've been through one in Las Vegas with the Route 91 Harvest Festival, and it was rough then, and this just brought back up old memories. So all we can really say is, it is what it is. You can't change it now. All you can do is hope and pray the families are okay, and we know it's impossible for them to be okay. But if they can get through it, hopefully everybody recovers from this. It's, the best way they can. And I don't know what else to say about it. It's just, it's tragic. It's sickening, and it's tragic. And it shouldn't happen. It just shouldn't happen. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just a horrible situation.
I did 4 hours of radio today. Took a lot of phone calls. We didn't talk sports at all. We spent 4 hours talking about it. We took a lot of phone calls. We talked to guys that were there, guys like Nate Taylor, The Athletic, some other local reporters that were just there covering the parade.
Yeah.
And with Danon Hughes, former Chiefs wide receiver, guys that were just there. And got their perspective on it. So I talked to dozens of people, even though not all of them got live on the air. It was emotionally draining to talk to people on and off for 4 hours about what they saw, what they experienced. And let me tell you, a lot of good people, a lot of people just also needing to talk it out.
Yeah.
A lot of people that were talking about, about the people that were around them, about the good that they saw, the good people that helped them. One of the things I keep coming back to, there was this woman by the name of Amanda, and she is a mother of 5 kids. She came to the parade with her 5 kids, from ages ranging from 1 to 10. And she wasn't that far from the incident. And she said that there were 3 men that were around her. And as soon as what happened started, each one of those guys grabbed one of her kids and started to run in the opposite direction with her.
That's good. That's awesome.
So it's like, yeah. I mean, then you hear, there's the story of the bystander that tackled one of the guys. So, I mean, and there's stories that, what Trey Smith did, right? Where he grabbed a kid and gave him the WWE belt that he was walking around with and was just comforting him. Or Andy Reid comforting a teenager. Like the stories that were the positive, the good in people showing out is there. And there will be hundreds of incidents like that, maybe thousands of incidents like that we will never hear about.
Correct.
So there is so much good from people. There are so many people that when their fight or flight reaction took place, their first instinct was, how can I help somebody near me?
Yeah.
And I want people to know that up front. I want people to recognize that out front, because I literally talked to 20 plus people today, and that was the first thing that they brought up. It was nothing that it wasn't political. It wasn't full of hate. It was just, let me tell you about something that I saw or someone that helped me that I don't know who they are. I will never know who they are. This is just what happened to me. Yeah. So I want to say that up front.
That's awesome.
It was 988 is the number you can call here in Missouri. It's a suicide and crisis lifeline. If you know somebody with some mental health, suicide, or just needs to talk to somebody, you can call it or text it. I want to get that out there because I wasn't at the parade. I was on 31st and Cherry. I heard all of the sirens. I heard some of the gunshots live on TV.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean it. There's no words that I can say. There's nothing that I can say that will make people feel better.
No.
There's nothing that I can say that can vocalize the emotions that I'm feeling, that I have felt over the last 24 plus hours,
Yeah.
and that's that. But I do think that at the start of the show, I think we have to say something about it because even though we turn to sports to sort of get away from everything, unfortunately,
It's
this
thrown
thing
back in your
happened
face. Yeah.
right in the middle of what was supposed to be probably the best day of the calendar year for us as
Yeah.
a as Chiefs fans, as a city, as a group of people who I will never know majority of people that are Chiefs fans, but I can see somebody wearing the arrowhead on their shirt and I will
Yeah.
know that we cheer for the same team and there's a bond between us.
Yep.
And unfortunately, on Tuesday or on Wednesday afternoon, all of that was ruined because of some teenagers who got into a dispute. Um, I think
Yep.
that's all I have to say about it. And I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try and talk some Chiefs football, but I think for a while this is gonna be in the back of my head
It's
because
going to be in
of
everybody's head. Yeah. It's
just
just,
just just because of the dozens of people that I talked to today and hearing their stories.
yeah. And it's sad. I mean, you hear about these good people that are out there, and it's sad that the old saying goes, one bad apple can ruin the bunch. And this in case it was a couple bad apples, but I don't know. There's not there, like you said. There's nothing we can say or do to make anybody feel any better. I wish there was, but there's not. Um, it's just unfathomable that people will go to a parade that's supposed to be a good time just to seek out problems, just to unload 40 rounds into a crowd because they're pissed off at somebody, pissed off at one or two people, or even three people. So instead of taking it somewhere else or waiting, you just decide to unload and shoot kids. And that just tells you what our society is turning into. And it's sickening, to be honest. Nobody has any self control. I can't say nobody, but people like that have no self control. It's horrible. And, I don't know if these kids have parents, but if their parents are out there listening to any of this, you really need to figure out where you fucked up because your parenting skills suck. It's that simple. You did something. There's no way you did the right thing for these kids. Impossible. And I'll say that until the day I die. I mean, I've seen troubled kids. I've seen kids with problems, and somebody, it just takes one person to help them. But if you're fucked up, you're not that person. You shouldn't have kids. So it's just got to end at some point. But I don't know how it's ever going to end. I mean, right now there's been 48 shootings similar to this since January 1st in the United States. 48 of them. It's pretty sickening. It just doesn't make sense. Anyway,
There's
I
no
don't know.
good transition with that, so
No,
let's just
there's
start
not.
talking a little Chiefs football.
Yeah, let's do that. We're going to go over the offense, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, well, I guess we could start with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I don't know who else to start with. He's, the guy that had to try to put it all together and make it work for 4 quarters offensively. And between him and Kelsey, Rishi Rice, they all did their part to get things back on track from the first half. We know they didn't start off playing good football in the first half, but they did turn it around. And you can look at all the quarterbacks that are out there in the league that have been past or present. I have never seen anyone play the game like he does. I've never seen anyone that just he wills people to win. Hey, Will, how you doing, buddy? Um, I'm glad you're here, man. Uh, I've never seen anybody that has the ability to will others the way he does. He wills everyone else to win, no matter how bleak it looks. That guy, he just has it. And it's crazy to think that he is able to manipulate 22 guys to win a football game, or however many guys. He's able to will coaches to win, to call the right plays, to call different plays. And he just, I don't know, man. You can't ask for, look, I know that, there was people out there that wanted Deshaun Watson in the draft. Man, I'm glad we didn't get him. I mean, every team in the league right now is
Actually,
wishing they
some
would have
some
drafted that
people
man.
thought that when the Chiefs were trading up, that's who they were trading up to get.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, some people actually thought it was going to be Trubinsky.
So when Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, right on that final drive, it was the first time he accounted for like 90+% of the yards
Yeah.
from passing and rushing. So like we talked about post Super Bowl, he was the leading rusher on the team.
Yeah, he was 66 yards.
66 yards on 9 carries. He had that big 22-yarder late in the game that helped Kansas City get there. Look, this is a guy that up and down, right? And a lot of that and rightfully so, I still stand by this. We blamed on guys like MVS, right? We blamed on guys like Kadarius Toney and McCole Hardman, who continue to struggle in this offense. It still seemed like a lot of these guys that even when they were out there, specifically Toney and Hardman, they didn't know where they were supposed to be. They never seemed on the same page. And then when the playoffs hit, it's like everybody was like, "Oh, okay." They
Yeah.
woke up.
Yeah.
It's like
It's like a light switch went off.
it
It's like, what
really
the
was.
hell?
I mean, it's like the light
Yeah.
switch went off, and this offense woke up and was like, "Oh, this is how you play football."
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And I think Patrick Mahomes is a big part of that. I think the most impressive thing about Patrick Mahomes is that it would have been so easy during one of these games where it was after the Patriots game, where Tony's last snap, or it would have been after I don't know, the Bill really pick one. The Bills game, the Broncos game, any of these games that Kansas City struggled in. It would have been very easy to come up to the post game and be like, I'm doing everything I need to do. It's on
Yeah.
these guys. These guys need to figure their shit out. These guys need to catch the ball. These guys need to run the right. But he never did that.
No.
He never came out publicly and was like, these guys aren't, they're the reason why we're losing. It's on them.
Exactly. Exactly.
Every single time when
And
he
he's
came up
always
to the
done that.
podium, he was like,
Always.
oh, it's on me. I need to throw it better.
Yeah.
You couldn't have thrown that ball better to MVS. Okay?
Yeah.
That ball was perfectly thrown. All
Yeah.
right? You could not have thrown that ball better. But even still, he was like, it's on me. I got to do better. These guys, it's on me. It's always on me. And to be able to do that consistently over and over and over again, I think shows just how true of a team player he is.
Yeah.
We had our defensive coordinator Spags was on with Pat McAfee yesterday.
Yeah, he was.
Today, one of the two. I think it was today.
It was
And
today.
he talked about that sort of mantra that he has, that it oozes not just into the offense, but also on the defensive side.
Mhm.
And that it sort of sets the standard for the entire team. And I think that his nonverbal communications, the way that he just presents himself around the
Yeah.
locker room, around the team, when there are and aren't cameras, he's the same guy. And that's just so big for this team.
It is. It is. And it's crazy that, when people see him, he doesn't have to say, I got to put this on my shoulders and win this game for anybody. He just goes out and does it. And when others see him doing that, it steps up their game. And we've been talking about this for a few years now on the show, from people that we talk to. That everybody, it's really difficult for a quarterback to lift up an entire football team. And I've never seen that in 34 years. I mean, I've never seen a quarterback that's able to make the defense play better. I've just never seen that before. And I've been around Joe Montana and everybody else. Never seen it. But this is unheard of. This is kind of crazy, man, to think about. People follow him like he's a cult leader, bro. It's crazy. And they just follow what he does and they continue to move forward. And you can't say that about any quarterback in this league. Past or present right now. You can't. It's virtually impossible. And I've been around for a long time, and I don't remember anybody that was able to do that.
Well, I think the confidence that you have as a defensive player is that we can play more aggressively because even if we give up that big play, we've got Patrick Mahomes.
Exactly.
Right? So you're allowed to, send that extra blitzer maybe a few extra times because hey, if we give up that 15 yards and give up the field goal, it sucks. We don't want to do it. But in the back of the head, you're like, I've got Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
I know that no matter what happens, we're probably going to be fine anyways. But yeah. I can take this extra risk because I have Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. He just finds a way to win a game. And whether it's with his legs, with his arm, with his brain, I mean, he just finds a way to win games. And that's a lot of guys. And I mean, I've been around a lot of guys in this league and even in baseball, once you're down, it's like, okay, well, we don't have a shot at this. I've only seen Patrick that way one time.
You know what it's
one
like?
Time.
It's like the Royals in 14 and 15 when it was the seventh inning and it was the start of the seventh inning and HDH were coming out and you were down by 1 run. You knew that the Royals weren't giving up any more runs. Now you had 3 innings to go out there and take the lead because you knew that there were no more runs given up. That was the game. It's like that with Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
It's like, that, hey, he's just simply so good that you're not going to be able to outscore him. And that when the ball is in his hands, you know that it's going to get done. That's why there is only one guy currently in the NFL that has beaten him in a playoff game.
That's right.
One dude.
That's right. Yep.
And it came off of Patrick Mahomes' worst half of his career.
Yep. And like I said, I've only seen Patrick like that, and I've heard about him being that way from people that were on the sidelines. It was in the 2020 Super Bowl. At halftime, he flat out said, "Look, we're probably not going to win this game, but we got to go out here and do everything we can to win this game."
He's got that "over my dead body" mantra, right?
He really does.
I'm leaving everything out over the field. I'm giving everything that I have, and whenever I watch this game again, I will know that I left nothing out on the field. I will have no regrets as to what happened because nobody will ever be able to say that I didn't give it my all.
Well, and that's why he came out in the second half of the Super Bowl in 2020, and you watched him throwing darts and laying like John Wick, absolutely like John Wick. He was throwing darts vertically. I mean, horizontally. He was just all over the place.
Greatest incomplete pass in Super Bowl history
ever. I mean, probably one of the greatest incomplete passes ever. But it was almost like the guy he threw the ball to was just not there. Not all mentally there at the time. But it is what it is. It's crazy to think that he is at 28 years old. And really earlier than this, but at 28, he's as good as he's been. And the crazier part is he's just going to get better. That's what's fucking scary for the rest of the NFL is he just gets better year in and year out. That's a scary thing for the NFL, man. I mean, every team in this league is trying to figure out ways to beat him. And every time they think they have it, they don't. And that's insane. I mean, you got some of the best defensive minds out there. Yeah, Baba Yaga, Boogeyman. That's right. He is the Boogeyman. And if anybody doesn't know where that's from, that is out of John Wick. It's just, I don't know, man. He's an amazing player. He's got a crazy mind, photographic memory. Remembers defenses he played twice. He remembers defensive coordinators and the shit that they call. How do you do that? How do you look at a lineup out there and go, oh, I've seen this play before. I saw it 3 years ago.
Would have helped me pass my chemistry class.
Hell yeah. I mean, I don't know, bro. I just never seen anybody play like him, and I'm old. I've been around a long time, spent a lot of time with the league. Never seen anything like it. Never.
Let's
Uh,
move on to our next player that I
yeah.
want to talk about, Isaiah Pacheco, the Scooby-Doo villain,
Yep.
the man who runs so angry,
Kills
the
worms.
grass has to apologize to the ground.
Yeah. He just kills
Uh,
worms. I mean, the guy kills fucking worms. That's insane.
he has been phenomenal for this team.
Yeah.
He has brought a attitude to this team that I think when your offense was struggling, you needed. He became part of that three-headed monster that Kansas City needed this year.
Yep. Yep. I agree. We haven't had a running back like him since Kareem Hunt. We just haven't. And I think as time goes on, you'll see him get more involved in the passing game. You'll see him evolve as a running back more and more. And he's going to be implemented in this offense a lot more than people assume. I mean, Kareem Hunt was used a lot in our offense in different aspects. If people don't remember, he did. I think you're going to see that a whole lot with him. I mean, he's 24 years old. Think about that. He's 24.
Yeah, and he's got 2 more years on his rookie deal. During the regular season, he was just a hair under 1,000 yards rushing with
Yeah.
935. This postseason, he had 313. Between the postseason and the regular season combined, 10 touchdowns. This was a guy that was very reliable.
Yeah.
And Andy Reid, for the first time possibly in his career, stuck to the run, especially late in the year and in the postseason. And it truly worked. Pacheco fits this team perfectly. He is the perfect example of why I love guys from smaller schools, from running backs specifically from smaller schools, because guys that make it as a running back from a smaller school, their talent level is there. The success of a running back does come a lot from their offensive line.
Absolutely.
And for Isaiah Pacheco to come from a smaller school, to have that level of success, the odds are his offensive line isn't going to be that good. But come to Kansas City behind a quality offensive line, you're able to produce at that level. And we'll talk about the draft coming up, and I got some few guys that will be interesting from smaller schools. But
well, Kareem Hunt was from a smaller school, if anybody remembers. You know, he wasn't from this big name school. He's from Toledo. I mean, it's not like he was from some big name school anywhere.
Yeah, and like everybody know, like Rutgers, people know what it is, but like it's a smaller school.
It's a small school. It's not like you're going to, LSU or Alabama or any place like that. This is a small school. Yeah, you know what Rutgers is because of their past history, but they're still not a big name school. They're just not. I mean, you could go to, USC or any place else to go. I know who that is. But a lot of guys that follow college don't know a running back's name off of Toledo or Rutgers, And he was a 7th-round pick.
He was, and his stats aren't going to blow you out of the water. He was basically average, 18th in total or in rushing yards, tied for 16th in touchdowns with 7. But there were so many games where when Kansas City needed yards, he was able to pick it up.
And that's the difference. That's the difference, Quentin. You can have all the yards in the world. I mean, Josh Jacobs had phenomenal seasons, but where did that get him? How many rings does he have right now? Pacheco, used correctly, got us what we needed to get to a Super Bowl.
And on top of that, you remember that Isaiah Pacheco for a while was like the only healthy running back.
Yeah. Even when he wasn't healthy, he was out there playing.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal, dude. I mean, that tells you the power of Veach. That actually gives you the power of Veach right there. Veach and Andy, they know how to find these guys, diamonds in the rough. Nobody would ever decide to pick them. And look where they're at.
All right, the next guy on the list here, I know if Philip is in there, if he's in the chat, he's gonna try and roast me. I know Liz has already attempted it. Rashee Rice,
Oh my God.
rookie wide receiver,
Yeah.
from
Well,
a
wide
wide
receiver number
receiver
one.
for a wide receiver perspective, his year was fine. From a rookie wide receiver perspective,
Phenomenal.
phenomenal. This is a guy that Kansas City became super dependent on. This was a guy that turned into the number one wide receiver in this offense, despite the fact that his talent level isn't probably a number one wide receiver. He became extremely dependable after the first couple of games. Remember, he had a couple of games where
He had four drops.
he had drops, and
Yeah.
then it's just like it clicked. It all came together. Rashee Rice, definitely extremely important to this offense this year. If it weren't for him, I don't know who the hell's catching the ball for 98% of the for the wide receiver group.
Yeah.
79 receptions, 938 yards, 7 touchdowns. None of those numbers are going to, like I said, blow you out of the water or anything. But look, this is a guy that really did stand up. This is a guy that stood up to his opportunities because nobody else in the room would. And he
Yeah.
was, I feel like he had that where he's like looking around, Andy's asking, he's like, okay, who's going to be the guy this year? And he's waiting
Yeah.
for Kadarius Toney, or MVS to raise their hand, maybe Sky Moore. And he's
Yeah.
looking around. He's like, nobody? Nobody's going to. I guess I can't. I'll do it. Put me in, coach. And that's what he did. He really did. And that to me is so impressive because we know this system is hard. We know that Kansas City does a lot with their wide receivers, and what Rice did is just phenomenal.
How many players, Quentin, have we watched? Andy Reid, how many wide receivers have we watched come into our system, whether it's a draft or even in free agency, since 2013 and struggle?
I mean, tons,
I
right?
mean, it's amazing to me that we have three wide receivers on our roster right now that are still struggling: Justin Ross, Cornell Powell, uh, Sky Moore. We actually have four, really, if you add Tony in there. So these guys have all been around, most of these guys have been around the system for more than a year, and yet Rashee Rice has been around the system a single season, and after week 4, he just turned it on like Donkey Kong and never looked back.
He really didn't. I mean, he was like, I'll put the team on my back. I mean, he
Yeah,
truly did, and
he
it's
did.
so impressive because in any system it would be impressive for a wide receiver to step in and do what he did.
Who was
But
all
in
the
the
guys that were on our show that kept saying they wanted Quentin Johnston?
God, I was not one of those people. I
There
was
was a couple of
vehemently
guys that on our
against it,
show. Maybe it was some.
despite the fact that he spells his name correctly.
Yeah.
Okay,
Funny part is that I remember people in the chat really wanting Quentin Johnston, and I remember specifically saying, and I'll go back and pull it up if I have to. I really like this Rashee Rice character, and I really like Rashee Rice. I thought he could do it. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the burst that you need. He's got great ball awareness. Runs phenomenal routes now. He runs great routes.
yeah,
And the funny thing is when if you ever watch him catch a ball, you can have two defenders directly in front of him, and he's able to skate like he's on roller skates, and he just burns by these guys, and he always picks up extra yards.
he
Always.
is definitely not a finesse receiver. He is not
No.
afraid of contact. He catches the ball over the middle. I believe the Buffalo game, he had that catch, if I'm remembering this correctly. He had that catch, and he was still, near the goal line, and he was still fighting for yards. There
Yeah.
was a safety that
Yeah.
just bounced off of him, and he's
Yeah.
still fighting for yards. Look, Rice has been great in this system, and
He has.
he has been by far the best wide receiver, despite the fact that he was a rookie. Rice is going to have a healthy career in the NFL. He proved it. Just fantastic, and he
You
took
don't see a lot
advantage
of
of
guys
his
get second
opportunity.
contracts with Andy Reid. He might be that guy that gets a second contract with Andy Reid. After his rookie deal, he'll probably get a contract with Andy.
Yeah,
So I don't know, man. He turned out to be phenomenal. And another player that, again, showed up when he needed to, put it on his back, made the plays that he needed to make, and helped us win a Super Bowl.
and has that crazy football psycho mentality. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
just like Pacheco, just
yeah,
like Mahomes. Another guy that has that psycho football mentality is the best tight end in the league, Travis Kelsey.
yes,
This was a player that, let's be honest, Kansas City. Let's be honest, Chiefs fans. Didn't look very good. It looked like age was catching up to him in the middle of the year.
yeah,
You can smile, but I'm right. This was a guy that is like, ooh, has he lost a step? Ooh, is that injury not fully healed?
yeah.
Ooh, what's Travis Kelsey looking like? And he sits out the final year of the season. Throughout the year he had some peaks and valleys, right? It all wasn't just bad.
No, I
He
mean he
had
had
some peaks and
120 plus
valleys.
yard games, and he had his 80-yard games. It was just those few games that he really struggled in when you
It
could
just
tell that he
didn't.
was worn out.
It was not what we saw last year. It was not vintage Travis Kelsey.
No,
And
no,
then, boy, it gets to minus 32 degrees in Arrowhead, and everybody's pumped up and ready to go. And then Travis Kelsey's like, "Wait a minute! Oh, it's playoff time.
yeah,
It's time to go."
yeah,
And he blows through the Dolphins. He blows through the Bills. He beats up some Ravens and wins another Super Bowl. And he
yeah,
ends the playoffs with 32 receptions on 37 targets for 355 yards and 3 touchdowns.
yeah. That's fucking insane, man.
Yeah,
That is
and
insane
obviously
numbers.
all of his playoff records that he's now accumulating. Yeah, Travis Kelsey. He may not have been there during the regular season. Damn, he
Partially,
showed up
yeah,
in the playoffs.
yeah, he did. And look, there was times that you knew. I mean, I asked around. Yeah, he was injured. He was injured for most of the season. He had two different injuries he was dealing with: one ankle and his knee, and he dealt with it. And he still played. He may not have been great in some games, but he still played. And we also have to remember that this is the first time in NFL history that a team has had such little downtime between games
Yeah.
ever. So you're talking about a 34-year-old guy that is used to getting his certain amount of time down that he didn't get. It's a little different when you're 24, when you're 25, even when you're 28. But when you're 34 and it's your 11th season in the league, that's enough to beat you up a little bit, especially when you're already injured. So, it says a lot about this football team. Just that alone says a lot about this football team because nobody else had to deal with that. No other team had to deal with that kind of downtime or lack thereof. I don't know, man.
That has been the Chiefs triple threat, those
Yeah,
guys.
yeah,
But do you want to talk about somebody specific outside of those guys? I have a couple, but I'll let you take
yeah.
it over here.
I got
What
to
are
tell
what are some
you,
of the guys you wanted to talk about?
I the offensive line through every game until the Super Bowl was absolutely phenomenal. Think about it. Nick Allegretti stepped in for Joe Thuney and did what I think a lot of people didn't think he was going to be able to do. And I know there was a lot of nervous people out there because Thuney wasn't in the game. He, game after game after game, he just continued to excel. And then in the fucking Super Bowl, the guy tears his UCL before halftime and plays the entire fucking game. Nobody should be able to do that, dude. He's a beast. He's an absolute animal, a beast. You should not be able. Look, man, I've torn my Tommy Johns. I know what it feels like. That's pain, pure burning pain. Now I understand that UCL is a different tendon, the one he tore. There's three, but it doesn't matter. The pain's still there, and I got the worst scars to prove it. They suck. But you can't even lift your arm, man. But he was able to.
And that
Unbelievable
just,
player.
yeah, that's completely unbelievable. What he was able to do, stepping in for, arguably the best left guard in football.
Yeah,
And I know he had some struggles against Armstead, but you're talking about one of the best defensive interior guys in football. Um, I mean that 49er defensive line is very good, and that
yes it
offensive
is.
line, you know, for the most part, played well. Nick Bosa played out of his mind,
Yeah,
but
he wanted that game. I think more than anybody did on the field. To
he
be
really
honest with
did.
you.
Nick Bosa
Yeah,
played a phenomenal football game. but Kansas City's offensive line stood up when it was needed most, despite the
Yeah,
fact that, I mean, we spent weeks talking about the tackles,
yeah,
right? Both tackles, and not for the good reason, right? It was holding penalties, it was false starts, it was not lining up correctly. I mean, it was just a constant coming on the show after the game was over, and then on Tuesday, it was just like, how can we not figure this shit out?
exactly.
And as the year went on, it slowly went away. And by the end of the year, no one was even talking about it. So
Yeah,
I will say this, that the tackles showed improvement over the year, which is impressive because some of those things can be hard to fix during the year, because you're talking about, formation sets and how you're going about this. So yeah, Kansas City, the interior played very well. The tackles, while they struggled, they sort of figured it out. So yeah, I think being able to sort of admit that you were wrong and
yeah,
fixing your problems takes a lot. So good on them for that. My next guy that I want to talk about, a little controversial, I know. I want to talk about MVS.
yeah.
Let's be honest with. Can we be honest for a second?
Sure.
Regular season MVS, he sucked. He was
Yeah,
bad. He was
yeah,
a bad football player.
yeah.
Playoff MVS.
Same as last year's playoff MVS.
My guy made some good catches.
Yeah, he
I'm going to be
did.
real with you.
Yeah,
My man made some great catches in times of need. He sealed back-to-back games
yeah,
between Buffalo and Baltimore. He
yep,
made the game-winning catch in 2 games.
yeah.
So I think a lot of people, and JP, this might piss you off, but just hear me out. I think a lot of people are going to remember MVS like they do Frank Clark,
Yeah,
where during the regular season it was like, where the hell is MVS? Where the hell
I
is
know.
Frank Clark?
I know.
Like what are you doing? And then playoff time comes around, and it's like he's the second coming of Jesus. It's
I
like,
know it.
where was this dude the whole year?
I know it. I know. And it's funny because I talked about MVS when we brought him in last year and we talked about it on the show. He did exactly what he was brought in to do last year. He was a deep threat decoy. That's what he really was. He wasn't brought in to catch, 10 touchdowns and have 1,000 yards. Nobody expected that out of him because he never had it with Rodgers. So why would anybody expect it here? But he's a great decoy. He's a great deep threat decoy, and that's what he was brought in for. This year, he had some struggles. There's no doubt. And it's kind of amazing to me that he had those struggles given the fact that he had a contract, an option contract sitting on the table.
Yeah, like
You know,
he's not coming back this year.
oh no,
Um,
no, no.
I mean the guy had 21 receptions on 42 targets. He had a
Yeah,
50% catch rate for
yeah,
315 yards and 1 touchdown.
yeah.
I mean, just
Those
awful.
are those are like four-string rookie numbers.
Yeah, awful. And then in the
Yeah,
playoffs, he was able to get 8 targets or 8 receptions on 13 targets and 128 yards. I
yeah.
mean, just the efficiency went up significantly. And then
33% of his yardage he got in three games basically.
so MVS, for what happened during the regular season, he stepped up during the postseason when it mattered most, and there's something just to be said about that. So
Yeah,
I know that. I mean, how many shows do we come on and talk about MVS in not a positive light? But hey,
yeah,
I think he's going to be remembered a lot like Frank Clark, where it was like my man was not there during the regular season, but during the postseason when it mattered most, he made significant plays, and
yeah,
I think that he will end up having a positive memory in Chiefs Kingdom because of what he did to Cincinnati last year, what
yeah,
he did to Buffalo and Baltimore this year.
yeah. I agree. I agree. Uh, you know, we don't really talk about other players a lot because they've been either, minimal in snaps or making mistakes, whatever the case is. But I got to give McCole Hardman his props because, look, he played in that game and he did a pretty damn good job. He blocked when he needed to, he caught when he needed to, and he made the, Super Bowl winning catch. But this is a guy that had a great rookie season with us, kind of fell off in 2020, really fell off in 2021 to a degree, got injured, came back in 2022, or no, I'm sorry, yeah, 2022, injured again, hip issue, went on IR. He's not been the exact same player since that hip issue. He doesn't have the same movement. He doesn't have the same flex. I don't even think he has the same speed, if I'm being honest. But he's did everything he could to win that football game, to catch that football. He did everything he could possibly do. And that, to me, look, if you can get somebody like him on a reasonable contract, like we did, and we've had him anyway, it's, in my opinion, it's a smart thing to have because he does know the system. And he may not be the best wide receiver you want in this system, but he's reliable when he needs to be reliable. And that's what really matters. Because we're going to groom Rashee Rice to be the number. He already groomed himself to be the number one wide receiver going into next season. There's no doubt in my mind. Are they going to go after some big name player in the draft or in the free agency? No, they're not. So don't expect them to. Don't expect the Chiefs to go out there and, oh, well, I got to sign this guy. If you guys get pissed off about that, then you really don't have any reason to watch football.
I can't wait for Chiefs fans for it to be like, hey, there's this big name free agent. And then it'll be like, let's get him. Oh,
Yeah.
and the next one. Oh, and the next one. That cycle starts in 2 weeks.
Everybody that they wanted over the last 2 years, Quentin, 3 years, 4 years. Let me go back. Everybody they've wanted since Patrick Mahomes came into this league, everybody that they've ever wanted has went to other football teams and not won a Super Bowl. Not even got to the playoffs half the time. 90% of the time. But they were supposed to be our savior. If they couldn't save part of another football team, what makes you think they would have been ours? Especially when we got guys that are stepping in that nobody's ever fucking heard of, and they're saving our asses because they want to be heard of. You know, everybody else has got a big name. They don't need the recognition of having a big name. They think they could just step in and do whatever they want. Well, that's obvious that they can't because where are they at right now? Where have they been at in the playoffs? Oh, they're all in fucking Cancun. All of our guys that really weren't big name guys, where were they at? Playing through the playoffs on the road and then winning a Super Bowl. I don't care about big name guys. Haven't for years. It was nice to have Tyreek Hill here. We've went to 2 Super Bowls and won them without him. I don't think we really need him. And why would we pay somebody that kind of money when we really don't need him? It's frustrating because you think after all these years and what we've done in the Super Bowl, or get to the Super Bowl and win it, that fans would understand it by now, but they just don't. They just don't get it, and I don't know why. But it is what it is. Don't expect them to go out and sign big name wide receivers because it's not going to happen. They're not going to drop a bunch of money on some big name wide receiver. They may pick up somebody. Don't get me wrong, but they're not going to give somebody $20, $30 million a year. You can hang that shit up. They got bigger fish to fry with other guys that they want to re-sign. It's that simple, man. The guys that helped us win a Super Bowl this year. Ooh, those would be nice to have back.
And that will be we will talk about a lot of that. That's next week.
Yeah.
Next week we're going to talk free agency. We're going to come up with some lists about what we think will happen and what we want to happen. So.
Yep. But yeah, man. I mean, this has been a whirlwind that I didn't honestly. I mean, I never thought I'd see. I got to be honest, man. I never thought I'd see this. After that 18 season, when he went toe to toe with Tom Brady, and basically lost because. I mean, look, man, it is what it is. A couple of bad fucking calls against Chris Jones and Dee Ford because that was going to be a shootout no matter what. And you can't put it on the rest, but in the same aspect, when it's a tight game and you know it's going to be a tight game, that shit needs to be called right. And it just wasn't. So, but him going toe-to-toe with Brady that year, I thought, okay, we're going to be in a Super Bowl next year. And we were. We talked about it on the show. There was no way we weren't going to the Super Bowl that year. Been crazy, man. What did Will say? I got something blocking my screen. He says, I think the Chiefs will re-sign Jones and Snead. I agree. And I kind of agree with what you're saying about Willie Gay, which sucks. I don't know. I got a feeling, I don't know about Willie Gay. Right now, Drew Tranquil is doing everything he can possibly do to will himself back on this football team. And I understand that. I think they're going to try to keep most of their core guys together. They got a great linebacking room. I mean, probably the best linebacking core you can ask for. One of those two guys I think will be here. I got a weird feeling it might be Willie Gay, but we'll just have to see. I mean, right now you got Drew Tranquil out there being a politician and willing himself into this back into the system. So we'll just have to see what happens. But yeah, I mean, Willie wants to be here. They all want to be here, and this is what we talked about. For a long time, we couldn't get anybody to come here because of Tyreek Hill. You know, it was a 1-2 punch. Couldn't get anybody to show up. Now we got guys that are banging on the door. Fuck, I want to be here. I want to play for this team. I want a ring. You know, I mean, and Veach is that guy that's like, oh, you wanted to invest in my business, but you didn't write a check. Now that it's working, you want to write a check. Sorry, I've given all my shares away, or as much as I plan on giving away. And that's how he looks at these players. Really? You want to play for us? Well, this is league minimum. This is veteran minimum. I will give you 5% more on bonuses if you want a ring. And that's how he's going to look at it for a while. You mark my words. Just it is what it is, man. We're a different football team. We're a different group. We got a different head coach. And by the way, did anybody see Nagy dancing?
Yeah.
He should never do that again. Never. He should never, ever do that again. Ever, ever, ever. That was horrible. That was probably, he was like a Lane off of Friends. I mean, just the worst dancing moves I've ever seen. And the guys were just laughing at him because he was just really putting it on. I don't know what the hell it was, but he was doing something there. I thought he was having a little seizure for a minute, but then I figured out he was dancing.
When you win, you're allowed to do anything.
Yeah, that's true. Especially when you're drunk and you win.
Uh-huh.
So
I want someone to hold life goals. I want someone to hold me like the way Patrick Mahomes was holding Chris Jones.
Yeah. Absolutely. I like what Chris Jones had to say, and I think look, everybody can say what he did in 19, what he did in 2022. I don't care. Or 2023, I should say. I don't really care. He's a different player than he was last year and 2 years ago. Don't think for 1 second he won't figure out a way of signing with this football team. He made it very clear he doesn't want to leave. And he's never really gone that far the way he said that. Yeah, he said it on Twitter once. They're going to have to throw me out the building. This time he was dead set. And Chris wasn't drunk.
He was sauced.
He wasn't horribly. He wasn't Kelsey drunk. He knew where he was at. Kelsey was lit.
He was so gone.
Oh, that song he made up, and then it just fell off. The song just fell
it's
apart.
Like he forgot. I don't know if he was trying to read lyrics off his hand.
I think he was. And his hand got smeared because of the beer.
On the parade, he was like, don't worry, bro. Like total frat boy.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry, guys. I got this. And he started writing shit on his hand. And then what happened was he might have spilled a beer on his hand.
Yeah, it all smeared.
It all smeared up. And it was just like, oh, shit.
But you know what, man? That's what makes him Kelsey. That's what makes him who he is.
You're allowed to do that when you win a Super Bowl.
That's right. And his brother is just as – I mean, his brother was out here. Dude, that was comical shit. His brother wearing the Chiefs mask, playing the bongos with some weird – I don't know what the hell he was doing. But they had Kelsey and Swift together, and they're singing along to her song, and then they pan over to Jason, and he's sitting on something, banging a drum with a Chiefs mask on, just going to town, all by himself. There was nobody else there. It was just him beating the shit out of a drum. Those two guys are phenomenal. Yeah. I got to say, they're great.
Yeah, they are.
But anyway, I don't know what else we got, man.
That's it. That's all. Today we were going to talk about the offense. We talked about the three-headed monster of this year. That was Kelsey, Pacheco, and Rice. A couple other guys that, had mediocre to bad seasons, objectively bad seasons.
but stepped
and
up when they
turned it
needed
off in
to.
the playoffs. And
Yep.
that's next week. We're gonna have to start talking about free agency, what the team needs to do, what they should do. Guys that they should look out for, and guys that they should be able to re-sign. And that works on both the offense and defense.
Yep.
Corners, wide receivers, defensive line. There's some work to be done all across this team, and you know, they're keeping. It looks like they're going to keep their core together on the offense, but there's some big questions on the defense this time around.
We'll have to see what happens. Um, the core on the offense is easy to keep together, but
Yeah,
the
because it's
defense,
one dude.
yeah, I mean it's one guy, and there's no money in that offense right now. There's not a ton of money in the wide receiver room, not a ton of money in the running back room. Really, we got some cheap guys on the offensive line, except for a couple. So now it's focusing on keeping the defense together. And I think that's what they're going to do. They know they've got a core of wide receivers. They'll bring in a couple and they'll draft somebody, I think, but we'll see. We'll talk about it starting Tuesday. With that being said, we appreciate everybody for joining. Again, there's really not a whole lot to say, but I hope we said what we could, and hope everybody gets well from this and mentally gets back to where they should be. And I don't know. With that being said, we appreciate everybody for joining. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we will talk to you guys again on Thursday. Peace out, everybody.